What if oil suddenly stopped flowing tomorrow? Not just gasoline at the pump, but diesel for trucks, fuel for cargo ships, kerosene for airplanes, the raw materials for plastic packaging, fertilizer for crops, and the chemicals that go into everything from medicine to makeup. No fuel, no transport, no food supply, no economy. This isn't some doomsday hypothetical. It almost happened. And it might happen again. Because whether we like it or not, after all the solar panels, all the electric vehicles, and all the climate conferences, oil still controls everything. Wait a second. Aren't we supposed to be moving away from oil? Everywhere you look, there are clean energy promises. Solar farms are expanding. Wind turbines are spinning. Electric vehicle sales are breaking records. Governments are pledging net zero emissions. Activists are demanding fossil fuel phase-outs. So why does oil still matter this much? Why is a disruption in a single waterway enough to send shockwaves around the entire planet? The answer is uncomfortable. The system never actually changed. We added clean energy on top of the old system. We did not replace the old system. And underneath all the green rhetoric, the global economy still runs on oil. Here's the first thing most people get wrong. They think oil is just gasoline. It is not. Crude oil gets refined into dozens of products that touch every part of modern life. Yes, gasoline for cars, but also diesel for trucks, trains, and ships, jet fuel for airplanes, heavy fuel oil for cargo vessels. Then there are the non-fuel products: plastics, fertilizer, asphalt for roads, synthetic rubber for tires, chemicals for detergents, paints, and pharmaceuticals. The list goes on. Petroleum is in the lipstick you wear, the Vaseline you use, the nylon in your clothes, and the carpet on your floor. Natural gas is usually found alongside oil underground. It heats buildings, powers factories, and is the primary ingredient for nitrogen fertilizer, which means without natural gas, global food production collapses. Here's the key insight. Oil is not one industry. Oil is inside every industry. You cannot see it, but you cannot escape it. Now let us talk about the most dangerous piece of water on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz, located between Iran, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. At its narrowest point, the strait is only about 21 miles wide. Shipping lanes are even narrower, just 2 miles in each direction. Through this tiny passage, approximately 20% of the world's oil passes every single day. Tankers carrying millions of barrels, heading to Europe, Asia, and beyond. There is no alternative route that bypasses the strait without adding weeks or months to shipping times. One narrow passage controls the flow of the global economy. In the event of a conflict, a military strike, a blockade, a mine, that flow can be cut off in hours, not days. Hours. This is not speculation. It has nearly happened. It could happen tomorrow. And when it does, the world does not have a backup plan. Let me explain what actually happens when oil stops flowing through a major choke point. The system is designed to run perpetually. Tankers are constantly moving. Refineries are constantly processing. Pipelines are constantly pumping. There is no storage capacity to absorb a sudden halt in supply. There is no cushion. When the flow stops, the impact is not immediate. Ships already at sea will continue to their destinations for weeks, but behind them, nothing follows. And when that final ship docks and unloads, the system realizes what has happened. Refineries start running low. Gas stations start rationing. Industries start shutting down. The system is never meant to stop. It is always meant to be flowing. And when it stops, everything goes haywire. This is not a slow decline. This is a sudden collapse. Now let us make this personal. How does an oil shock in the Middle East affect your wallet? Oil prices rise. That is the first domino. When oil prices rise, shipping costs rise. Every product that moves on a truck, a train, or a ship becomes more expensive to transport. When shipping costs rise, the price of everything in those containers rises. Electronics, clothing, furniture, toys, anything manufactured overseas. When oil prices rise, fertilizer prices rise. Natural gas is the primary input for nitrogen fertilizer. Higher fertilizer prices mean higher costs for farmers. Higher costs for farmers mean higher food prices at the grocery store. This is called fossilflation. Fossil fuel inflation. It works its way through the entire economy, from energy to transport to food. Even if you do not use oil, oil uses you. The most immediate effects are not felt in wealthy Western countries. They are felt in Asia. Japan, South Korea, India, and many Southeast Asian nations rely almost entirely on imported oil from the Middle East. They have no domestic production to fall back on. When the strait closes, they feel it first and worst. School days get cut. Fuel exports are restricted. Households are asked to conserve. Industry slows down. But the real devastation happens in poorer nations. Countries that cannot afford to subsidize fuel prices the way Western governments can. Places where cooking fuel and heating fuel are already luxury goods. For much of the global South, an oil shock is not an inconvenience. It is a life or death situation. No cooking fuel means no hot food. No heating fuel means freezing in winter. No fuel for transport means medicine and supplies cannot reach remote communities. For some countries, this is not expensive, it is existential. Now here is the part that will make you angry. When oil prices spike, not everyone loses. Oil producers benefit enormously. Their cost of extraction does not change. The oil comes out of the ground for roughly the same expense whether prices are $40 a barrel or $140 a barrel. The United States is now the largest oil producer in the world. Yes, the country that talks the most about clean energy also drills more oil than any other nation. And when global oil prices rise, American oil companies print money. Same cost, higher prices, massive profits. This is the ugly truth of the global energy system. When the system breaks, someone always wins. And often, it is the same people who told you they were trying to move away from oil. So why haven't we quit? Because there is a trilemma. 3 competing priorities. You can only optimize for 2 at a time. First, security of supply. Do you have reliable access to energy? Second, affordability. Can people actually pay for it? Third, sustainability. Is it clean and renewable? Right now, the world is focused on security. After the shocks of recent years, every government is asking the same question. Will I be able to power schools tomorrow? Will my citizens be able to heat their homes this winter? When you are worried about survival, you stop worrying about sustainability. The climate movement has spent decades building a moral case for clean energy. Do it for the planet. Do it for future generations. Do it for the poorest among us. But in a cost of living crisis, that framing does not work. People care more about their next meal than about carbon emissions. There is a better framing. Energy security. Dependence on oil makes nations vulnerable. Vulnerable to dictators. Vulnerable to terrorists. Vulnerable to accidents. Reducing oil dependence is not just good for the climate. It is good for national security. That message is much harder to ignore. Let me leave you with the hard truth. We have made progress. The oil intensity of the global economy, how much oil we burn per dollar of economic output, is much lower than it was 50 years ago. During the 1970s oil shocks, the world had almost no alternatives. Today, we have solar, wind, nuclear, and electric vehicles. But here is the number that matters. Global oil demand is still growing. In absolute terms, we are using more oil every year, not less. The clean energy transition is real. It is happening, but it is not happening fast enough to replace the fossil fuel system. It is happening on top of it. We did not replace oil. We built everything on top of it. Our cities, our supply chains, our agricultural system, our entire way of life. And that is why oil still controls the world. Not because we are too lazy to change, not because politicians are corrupt, not because the technology does not exist, because the system we built over the past century is the most complex, interconnected, and fragile machine humanity has ever created, and you cannot unbuild that machine overnight. The next time you hear about a conflict in the Middle East, or a spike at the pump, or a shortage of something you take for granted, remember this: the flow can stop. And when it stops, everything stops. That is not fear-mongering. That is just how the system works. And until we truly replace it, we remain at its mercy.